You stand in the doorway between the kitchen and the hall, and for a moment, not a dramatic moment, not a movie moment, just a Tuesday afternoon at 3:47, the reason you were standing there simply evaporates. You know you needed something. You were certain of it 3 seconds ago, back in the living room where the book you were reading sat open on the arm of the chair like a bird with a broken wing. You felt the need rise in you, specific and urgent. But now, here, at this threshold, the thought has vanished. You look at your empty hands as if they might remember what your mind has discarded. The refrigerator hums. Somewhere a clock ticks. You have become, in this instant, a stranger to your own intentions. We call it a senior moment, even when we are not yet senior. We blame the wine from last night, or the sleep we did not get, or the sheer overwhelming volume of things we are expected to keep in our heads at this age, 40, 50, the years when life becomes administratively dense with passwords and appointments and the quiet, constant arithmetic of maintaining a life. But what if I told you that this forgetting, this specific vanishing that happens in doorways, has nothing to do with your age and nothing to do with how much you drank last night, and everything to do with the fact that you walked through a door?
There is a phenomenon, documented and replicated in laboratories across the world, that describes exactly what happened to you in that threshold moment. It is called the doorway effect, and it reveals something unsettling about the architecture of memory. Not the architecture of your mind, but the architecture of your home, your office, the very doorways you pass through a dozen times a day without noticing. Your brain, it turns out, treats doorways as event boundaries, hard stops, the end of a scene. When you cross from one room to another, your mind performs a kind of archival function, filing away the experiences of the previous room into a mental folder labeled Living Room, Tuesday afternoon, and preparing a blank slate for the new environment you are entering. The problem, of course, is that you formed your intention to fetch the scissors, to retrieve your glasses, to unplug the iron, within the context of that previous room. And when your brain closed the file on that context, it took the intention with it, tucking it away with the color of the carpet and the slant of the light through the blinds, all part of a coherent episode that is now, technically, in the past. Anthropologists will tell you that the doorway is one of humanity's oldest technologies. Before the wheel, before writing, there was the threshold, a physical demarcation between inside and outside, between safety and exposure, between the known world and the wild. For most of human history, to cross a threshold was to undergo a transition so profound it required ritual. The Romans had their household gods, the Lares, who guarded the crossing. The Japanese built genkan, sunken entryways where the outside world was literally left below grade. We have lost this solemnity. We pass through doorways now with the same attention we give to blinking, but our brains have not forgotten. Evolutionarily, crossing a boundary meant that the threats and opportunities of the previous landscape no longer applied. Predators that hunted the savannah did not follow you into the cave. The social dynamics of the marketplace did not apply in your bedroom. To survive, the brain learns to compartmentalize, to treat each distinct environment as a separate episode of existence, with its own cast, its own props, its own plot points. This is why, when you walk back into the living room, that is, when you retrace your steps, the memory returns with almost cinematic clarity. You see the book again, the slant of light, the specific angle of your thinking, and suddenly the file is reopened. Ah, you think, the scissors. It was never lost, it was simply archived in a room you had left. But the doorway effect is just the beginning. It is a crack in the veneer, a place where the mechanics of perception show through the wallpaper of daily life. If we look closer, if we really examine the moments where ordinary life hiccups, we find a whole landscape of these phenomena, glitches in the matrix that are not glitches at all, but rather the necessary compromises of a brain that has to filter infinity into something manageable.
Consider the word shelf, a simple word, a domestic object.
Say it now, silently in your mind, and then say it again and again, 20 times, 30 times, until the sounds begin to separate from their meaning. Shelf, shelf, shelf. The consonants become absurd, the vowel a foreign drone. The word detaches from the object until you are staring at a meaningless string of phonemes. And somewhere deep in your chest, a tiny panic flickers. Have you forgotten how to read? Has the world lost its coherence? This is called semantic satiation, and it is the doorway effect's linguistic cousin. Your brain has temporarily exhausted the connection between symbol and referent. The pattern recognition software that lets you navigate the world has hit a loop, and for a few seconds, the arbitrariness of language, all language, reveals itself. You are speaking air into shapes, and the shapes are pretending to mean something. There is a related phenomenon, less common but more disquieting, called jamais vu. Déjà vu is the familiar feeling a stranger, when the present moment feels remembered. Jamais vu is the opposite. It is the experience of looking at something you know intimately, your own handwriting, the face of your spouse, the street where you grew up, and feeling that you have never seen it before. The pattern does not match the database. The recognition fails. It happens most often in moments of extreme fatigue or stress, when the brain's filing system is overwhelmed and begins to misfile the present moment, or when you stare at a familiar face so long that the facial recognition software, like an overworked clerk, throws up its hands and says, "I don't know who that is." These are not episodes of madness. They are glimpses behind the curtain, moments when the continuous narrative we call my life stutters, and we see that it is a story being constructed in real time by a tired and overworked narrator. And then there is the high place phenomenon, sometimes called l'appel du vide, the call of the void. You are standing on a balcony 8 stories up, or looking over the railing of a bridge, or holding a kitchen knife, not threateningly, just making dinner. And from some cold, rational corner of your mind comes a thought so alien it feels like a whisper from outside. Jump, cut, drop. It lasts half a second. It horrifies you. You step back from the edge, or you set down the knife, and you wonder, with a genuine shiver, if some part of you wants to die. But research suggests the opposite. That intrusive thought is not a death wish. It is a safety check. Your brain, confronted with the possibility of destruction, runs a simulation to confirm that you do, in fact, want to live. It is the mental equivalent of testing the brakes on a steep hill. The thought of falling is so vivid, so powerfully imagined, that the subsequent feeling of relief, the recoil from the edge, reaffirms your survival instinct. You did not think of jumping because you were broken. You thought of jumping because your brain loves you and was checking that you were still paying attention.
These phenomena share a common thread. They are moments when the automated systems of the mind hiccup and reveal themselves. We like to believe that we are continuous beings, stable and coherent, moving through time with purpose and memory intact. But we are not. We are a series of episodes, stitched together by a narrator who is often sloppy, sometimes sleepy, and prone to leaving files in the wrong rooms. There is another effect, one that governs the modern condition perhaps more than any other, the Zeigarnik Effect. Named for the Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who noticed that waiters remembered unpaid orders perfectly but forgot them the moment the bill was settled, it describes the mind's tyrannical relationship with incompleteness. An unfinished song lyric will loop in your head for days. An unsent email will sit in your mental inbox, glowing with a low-grade urgency, while the 100 emails you actually sent fade into oblivion. We remember what is open, what is broken, what is unresolved. Our brains crave closure with the physical hunger of thirst or fatigue. Think about your browser right now, or your phone, or the notifications you have swiped away but not truly dismissed. The modern world is a machine for generating Zeigarnik loops. Every half-read article, every unanswered text, every open browser tab is a doorway you have walked through without closing the file. They sit in your hippocampus, demanding attention, preventing the archival process from completing. We wonder why we cannot sleep, why we feel a nameless anxiety in the quiet hours. It is because we are living in 1,000 unfinished rooms at once, and our brains are trying to keep the lights on in all of them. And then there is the loneliness, the modern loneliness that is not quite solitude, because we are never truly alone anymore, but is rather a kind of isolation within connection. In these moments of true isolation, driving on an empty highway at midnight, working the third shift in an empty office, walking through a parking garage that echoes with your own footsteps, many people report a peculiar sensation. They feel with absolute certainty that they are not alone. There is a presence, a benevolent figure just out of sight, standing behind them or walking beside them. It is called the third man effect, named for T.S. Eliot's poem about the empty post-war streets, and it is documented in extreme survival situations and in the mundane exhaustion of everyday life alike. The brain, when deprived of social input, generates a companion. It hallucinates company to prevent the psychological damage of true isolation. You are not crazy when you feel the ghost in the passenger seat. You are being cared for by a mind that refuses to let you be entirely alone.
Or consider the phantom vibration syndrome. Your phone is in your pocket. It is silent, but you feel it, the specific, unmistakable buzz against your thigh. You reach for it, and the screen is dark. Nothing. 40% of us feel this weekly. It is not addiction, exactly, though we call it that. It is plasticity. Your brain has learned that a certain quality of tactile sensation, a random nerve firing in your leg, the brush of fabric, predicts social contact. It has wired the sensation of connection so tightly to the physical input that it now generates the trigger in anticipation of the reward. Your body has swallowed the technology. The phone is not just in your pocket, it is in your nervous system, and your nerves are singing with the expectation of being needed. Revenge bedtime procrastination. The phrase is new, but the feeling is ancient. You have spent 16 hours giving your time to others, to the job, to the children, to the maintenance of the house, to the endless administrative labor of being an adult in the middle of your life. And now, at midnight, you are sitting on a couch, scrolling through nothing, watching a show you do not care about, simply because this hour, this stolen 60 minutes, belongs to you. You are exhausted. You know you will suffer tomorrow. But the part of you that makes decisions has gone on strike. It is holding your sleep hostage until you prove that you are still autonomous, still capable of choosing. It is not insomnia, it is a labor dispute with yourself. These are the things we do not discuss at dinner parties. The way a word can lose its meaning, the way a doorway can steal a thought, the way standing on a high place makes us imagine falling, not because we want to fall, but because we want to feel ourselves choosing not to. The way our phones haunt our nerves, the way our brains generate imaginary friends when the world gets too quiet. We do not discuss them because they feel like personal failings, signs of aging or distraction or existential instability, but they are not. They are the signs of a system working exactly as designed, running its error checks, managing its resources, protecting us from the full, crushing weight of reality by filtering it into manageable episodes.
You were not forgetting because you were old. You were forgetting because you moved. The room changed, and your brain, that faithful, overworked librarian, reshelved your intention along with the color of the walls. You are not seeing ghosts when you feel a presence in the empty house. You are experiencing the neurological equivalent of a nightlight, a gentle, false glow to keep the dark from being absolute. You are not addicted to your phone when you feel it buzz against your leg. Your nervous system has simply extended itself into the device, the way a blind person's brain colonizes the white cane, turning tool into sensory organ. We live in a time that demands perfect recall, constant availability, seamless continuity. The productivity gurus tell us to optimize our mornings and hack our sleep and eliminate the friction of being human. But these frictions, the forgetting, the misrecognition, the phantom vibrations, the imaginary companions, are not bugs to be patched. They are features that keep us sane. The doorway effect is not a failure of memory. It is memory working exactly as it should, compartmentalizing our lives so that we do not drown in the infinity of detail. Every time you forget why you entered the kitchen, your brain has performed a successful data migration, keeping the living room files separate from the kitchen files, preventing the corruption of one context by another. There is a strange comfort in knowing this. When you stand in that doorway tomorrow, and you will because we always do, and the reason for your journey evaporates like breath on a cold morning, you can pause. You do not need to panic. You do not need to feel the sharp, cold fear of incipient dementia or the shame of distraction. You can simply stand there in the threshold and recognize what is happening. You are experiencing the architecture of consciousness. The doorframe is not just wood and plaster. It is a bookmark in the story of your day. The previous chapter has ended. The new one is loading. And whatever it was you needed, the scissors, the glasses, the peace of mind, it is still there in the other room, safely filed away, waiting for you to retrace your steps and remember not just the object, but the person you were when you decided you needed it. We are not continuous, we are episodic. We are a series of selves, strung like beads on the thin wire of biology, separated by doorways and sleep, and the simple necessary act of closing one file before opening another. The Jamais Vu moments remind us that familiarity is a habit, not a fact. The high place phenomenon reminds us that survival is active, a choice made again and again in the margins of consciousness. The third man, the phantom in the empty room, reminds us that we are never designed to be alone, that the mind will generate love and companionship from its own substance if the outside world fails to provide it.
So go back, walk through the doorway again. Feel the strange, subtle click as the mental file reopens and the scissors appear in your memory, sharp and obvious as they always were. Notice how the room feels different now, how returning is not the same as never leaving. You have been somewhere else, even if only to the kitchen and back. You have crossed a boundary, lost yourself, and found yourself again, slightly changed, slightly older, slightly more aware of the machinery humming beneath the surface of your ordinary life. These are the things that happen to everyone. The quiet, private phenomena that structure our days. They are the unseen architecture of the mind, the load-bearing walls that hold up the facade of continuity. We are all always standing in doorways, forgetting and remembering, recognizing and failing to recognize, leaning over edges and choosing again and again to step back, to live, to close the loop and start the next episode. The house is quiet now. The lights are dim. You have the scissors, or you do not. You have forgotten why you came, or you have remembered. It does not matter in the end which room you are in. What matters is that you are here, reading this, breathing, the soft hum of consciousness negotiating its compromises with reality, one threshold at a time. The doorway is not an exit, and it is not an entrance. It is a mirror. And when you stand in it, when the thought vanishes and the moment hangs suspended between before and after, you are seeing yourself, the self that is always becoming, always archiving, always walking through into the next room, trusting that what matters will follow, or that it will be waiting, patient and possible, when you find your way back.